Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of July 15th to the 21st of 2024. Alright, so this week we have a full moon on Sunday, and so as we do approach the weekend, we are getting into the heightened energy of the lunar month, and around Sunday probably making some shifts and changes, some important ones, to further develop the lunar cycle, maybe glean some new insights, and continue along our life journey. So a lot of the aspects are concentrated around that full moon on Saturday, Sunday, but starting the week on Monday, Mars will be conjoining Uranus. So there can be a bit of this maybe freedom-oriented energy, maybe feeling a bit more like our true selves, a bit of this excitement perhaps coming in, and perhaps a new beginning in regards to how we listen to that true self. Tuesday, the sun will go into Cancer, which adds to a little bit of that protective energy of Cancer, where we've already had Venus. Most of the aspects are over the weekend there. So Saturday, Mars will start to trine Pluto. That gives us this sense of empowerment, perhaps a bit of supportive energy with Mars this week, the assertive side of ourself, which is quite nice to see. The full moon will be conjunct Pluto, though, so there is some transformations, there is some healing, perhaps, and maybe a ending and beginning with that more ego, assertive side of ourself that can be quite transformative and empowering. And then over the weekend as well, Mercury will be squaring Uranus, so maybe a bit of the unexpected energies, maybe a little bit of stress, anxiety, maybe some things we got to be a little bit more flexible with, get outside of our comfort zone a little bit with, but in that way it can be very constructive. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, July 15th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. In mainstream, you won't see them using the visible sky because unfortunately, they're using a seasonal system in the West, which simplifies the zodiac into 30 degrees each. But as you can see, they are different sizes, and we are taking that into account. So if you are new, definitely check out the link down below on using the visible sky called True Sidereal Astrology. All right, so let's definitely do a bit of a recap here because we had some sign changes last week. We've also got the sun entering Cancer this week. So the placements here is that the sun is still in Gemini coming into this week, again, till around Tuesday. And this is where we started the last new moon, so about a week or two ago, depending on when you're watching this. So it's still great to be focused on how we can learn, be curious, be interested, maybe exchanging, maybe a little bit of that social energy as well. So it's still good to be focused this way, I would say, even for this whole week, even though the sun will leave here, because of course that is what this lunar cycle is about. It's where it started, and again, any developments around that curiosity, interest, flexibility, I think is great with that placement. Now Venus will be in Cancer all week where the sun will be joining, so there is definitely that protective nature at the moment. With Venus, it's great to be protective and caring for ourselves and others right now, and creating that safe and secure space. So with Venus, good to connect with feelings, emotions, maybe the past a little bit, and again a little bit of that nurturing or protective nature, enjoying that can be great. Mercury in Leo, our minds and our communications are in the more expressive realm at the moment, so we could have a bit of that creativity, maybe a bit of that passion, a bit of that love perhaps coming through in regards to our communications, in regards to how we're thinking about things. So there's definitely some fire there in that regards. But the fire is quite grounded at the moment with Mars in Taurus. And so when it does come to asserting ourselves, when it comes to being proactive in our life, there is definitely that more reserved, or let's say grounded and stable approach to things. So it is good to take one step at a time with Mars and Taurus. It's great to stop and smell the roses, and it's great to muster up that inner strength like self-reliance, self-worth, self-belief when it does come to pursuing those things that we do want in life. Now, speaking of which, let's go ahead and start off here with Monday, because Monday, Mars will be conjoining Uranus. In fact, we'll probably be feeling this Sunday leading into this week as well. So again, Mars, the planet of our assertive side, is next to Uranus, the planet which you could say is the gateway to our higher self, or our true self, the self that wants to listen to our excitement. So it's great to do that. There's a new chapter, a new beginning here with this, and quite significantly, as Mars is much slower than the other fast movers and takes about 2.5 years to make these outer planet conjunctions. So we are starting a 2.5 year cycle with how we can listen to that true self, listen to some of that excitement, and perhaps be proactive or assertive towards that. And maybe even some new beginnings. I would say it's excellent to set some new intentions in regards to anything that you do want to pursue in life, anything you do feel like will give you a greater sense of freedom, and speaks to that excitement, as there's definitely new seeds that can be planted here, especially if it's in the context of what will lead to a little bit more groundedness in our life, a little bit more stability with the Taurus, and again, a bit of that resourcefulness will probably be required in that process. So that's Monday, definitely the most important thing, the early part of the week here. The sun will be squaring Chiron, so maybe there's a little bit of healing in the backdrop of some of that. Nothing major with this one, but if there's anything we can do that maybe is expressing ourselves or focusing on the things we want in life, and in that way, that being healing and therapeutic, I think is great. And of course, any intentions around healing, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, is always great to focus on with really any major aspect to Chiron like this. And so that square with the sun will be Monday as well. Now, as a very minor backdrop to this, we'll start to get into some Libra energy here, the late Monday into Tuesday time period that can place a theme around balance in our life and perhaps balance in our interpersonal relationships. So a little bit of that to and fro, give and take, finding mutual balance in our relationships, but also in our personal lives as well. Asking ourselves questions like, if there's any areas out of balance, how can we bring that back into balance? And I think just all in all, seeing the tertiary view of life, that there isn't just duality. It seems that way. We are, I think, living in a dualistic reality here, but there is always the third piece, which is seeing both sides of the coin, or in this case, both sides of the scale, and sort of acting from the balancing point of the scale. So anything that's about sort of creating balance, resolving karma, justice, morality, ethics, doing the right thing, what's mutual, what's balanced, I think is fantastic here this early part of the week. Now, as I said, Tuesday will be going, the sun will be going into Cancer. And so we'll probably start to feel that shift on Tuesday. Again, adding to a little bit more of that protective energy. How can we focus on creating that safe and secure environment for ourselves and others? And then once we do get to Wednesday, we do have some of that deeper energy, as the moon will go into deeper Scorpio and deeper Ophiuchus, both Wednesday and Thursday here. So with this, always great to be open to the deeper world within ourselves, and of course in our outer environment as well. These 2 days, perhaps Thursday being particularly the more healing day with this, but great to see what comes up. Great to really work on embracement, acceptance, integration with our deeper selves, any deep things that do come up, any things from the shadow, any things from the closet, so to speak, that can be reconnected with and embraced and integrated, so that we become more of our true self and more whole, which is really what this deeper part of the sky is really about. Because as we do get past Ophiuchus, once we start to get into Friday, we have that post-healing, post-transformative energy, as the moon will pass over the galactic center, the very energetic part of the sky that deals with that death and rebirth, let's say. And of course, after we've gone into the cocoon, then we sort of emerge as the butterfly, so to speak, as a result of that. But we have to go into the cocoon, we have to embrace, integrate, transform, metamorphosize, so to speak, and then we sort of come out the other side there. So that's Wednesday and Thursday with a bit of that deeper energy. With that, we do have some very minor aspects. We have the sun sextiling Uranus, maybe feeling a little bit of that freedom from earlier in the week, that true self, that excitement, maybe a little easier to work with now, as it's starting to build momentum with that Mars conjunction. But the sun will be in good harmony with Uranus, helping us express ourselves in that way a little bit more. And Mercury in good harmony with that healing Chiron, so maybe some things involving communication or learning and using our minds. We're just feeling maybe a little bit empowered, a little bit rejuvenated with, nothing major there. But that's a nice little supportive energy there on Thursday with, again, that deeper Ophiuchus energy going on. Now, as we get into the weekend on Friday, again, we get that post-transformation energy. So for the whole weekend, we've got the moon in Sagittarius leading up to that full moon, which will be on Sunday. And the full moon will be right in between Sagittarius and Capricorn, conjunct Pluto here. So leading up to that, it's great to, again, feel that free-spirited Sagittarius, being open-minded, being open to expand our mental and literal horizons a little bit. And that's going to help us prepare for that full moon. So Sunday, that's the most important event that this weekend, but as you can see, there's a lot of aspects, there's a lot of things going down. I'll go ahead and break it down here, but a lot of different parts of the sky really involved with this full moon. But I would say the most fundamental here is that it's the time of doing the status check for the lunar month. And we usually do glean some important insights. We get a new perspective on our life, or at least in regards to the past 2 weeks of our life. And from that, we can make some shifts and changes and pivot along the life journey, if you will, for the remainder of the lunar cycle, so the next 2 weeks, but even for the next 6 months, if you will, as we are, of course, playing a role in the solar cycle as well. But anyways, a status check with how we can integrate that free-spirited side of Sagittarius, but also I would say that grounded side of Capricorn. So the full moon won't be in Capricorn, but it'll be very close to it. And so I think there's going to be a tinge of this sense of perhaps responsibility, patience, and perseverance. And so these two combine, the fire and the earth. How can we listen to that spirit, but also be grounded at the same time and long-term at the same time? In fact, both of these constellations do deal with a more long-term view. We could think of them as our sort of purpose. Sagittarius might be our more spiritual purpose, might be our more inspiring purpose, while Capricorn is much more of the constructive purpose, things like our legacy or our productive life or our career and that kind of purpose. So melding these two, the spiritual and the physical, and in this way, I think it's a great way of doing that status check, maybe making that pivot along the life journey. Now, the full moon will be in a very close conjunction with Pluto, and this is the first full moon that we've had with Pluto entering Capricorn officially. And so great to do a status check also with how we can be transforming the structures of our lives. These past couple years, Pluto's been slowly entering Capricorn, now officially in Capricorn this year only. And so it's been a great time to see how can we really restructure things and build foundations in our life that are more solid and more true to us. Pluto wants us to redo those foundations right now in Capricorn, those pillars, those things we depend on, those things we stand on, so that our life is, of course, much more grounded, constructive, and in the case of Pluto, more in alignment with our true selves. So great to do this. This has already been in effect for the year, but a status check perhaps in that regard with the full moon can be fantastic. But all in all, with Pluto being willing to transform, create new beginnings, endings in order to facilitate the new beginnings, can be fantastic here just in general. So the aspects to this is that it will be trining that Uranus-Mars conjunction, so it's nice to see that sense of true self supportive here with that. Maybe some of those things that, again, can be listening to our excitement about. So a nice harmony there with that one. And then also a sextile up to Neptune, and the sun will be trining Neptune as well. So just a little bit of receptivity, going with the flow, a little bit more of that spiritual life, just a bit supportive with this one as well. All right, so aside from that, so Mars will be in a trine with Pluto exact with this one, so it's very nice to see. So not only is the full moon trining Mars, obviously, but since Pluto's involved, Mars is trining Pluto, and so this sense of empowerment, and I think this will be going into next week as well, the sense of perhaps feeling assertive, feeling direct, feeling maybe confident in the sense that maybe there's been some of this empowerment, maybe feeling healed, maybe feeling more whole and more integrated, that can be not the cause, but let's say associated with that. So great to see that assertive, fiery side of Mars, again, pretty much supported all week long, but definitely in the empowering side of things with this full moon. And then lastly, the most important thing here with that full moon is that Mercury will be squaring Uranus. And so there can be a little bit of this kind of high frequency energy. Mercury's the mind. Uranus is that, again, freedom, but in the square it can be a little bit of a clash. So this can come through in different ways for all of us. Sometimes there's a lot coming at us. Sometimes we're feeling maybe a little anxiety or stress. Maybe we're just feeling like we need to get outside of our comfort zone a little bit. But I would say that's probably the best way of working with it. It's really going to play a much more minor role, I think, in the larger context of things, because it's not directly associated with the full moon like these other aspects are. But nonetheless, I think anything that's still about creating some flexibility, getting outside that comfort zone a little bit, stretching a little bit, being adaptive, while we have this empowerment with Pluto, this assertive nature with Mars, and again, this status check with the full moon. All right, and some of these other aspects are definitely going to be minor with all this also going on. That's a Venus sextile Jupiter, maybe a bit of enjoyment to be had with abundance, or maybe with relationships on a very minor note there. And there was one more in here, but no, that's just the Sun trine Neptune we talked about there. Yes, Mars sextiling Neptune leading up to the full moon. Again, a bit of that receptivity energy, but again, it's all associated. All right, so let's go ahead and distill this in a very simple synopsis here. So we have this full moon on Sunday. It's the status check of the lunar cycle. Great time to sort of be aware of what's working, what isn't working along the life journey, especially in the context of the past 2 weeks. And from that insight, perhaps make a pivot for the next 2 weeks and maybe the next 6 months as well in regards to any of these insights that do come in. The insights will be in the context of Sagittarius and Capricorn, which is what they have in common, the sense of purpose or the future in some way. Both the inspiration of Sagittarius, but also the groundedness and long-term patient view with Capricorn. Pluto is helping us restructure these grounded views, these structures of our life that we can be building towards, these more constructive purposes, if you will. And so good to be non-attached, good to allow for that transformation, be willing to restructure, and that can help facilitate that process. There is a lot of supportive energy with that full moon, including a bit of receptivity from Neptune, and again, that sense of freedom with Uranus. And listening to that excitement, which might come in a little bit strong with Mercury. So again, just remembering to get outside of our comfort zone and be a little bit flexible and adaptive with the whole thing can be great. All right, so that's the week really concentrated on Sunday. But as we approach that, Mars will be conjunct Uranus on Monday. A little bit of freedom with that sense of assertiveness, starting to plant new seeds with. And so any intentions around that sense of excitement starting Monday is fantastic. And then as we start to progress through the week, we get a little bit of that deeper energy with the moon in Scorpion Ophiuchus, which then leads to that post-transformation. And again, more of those themes around creating a little bit more of that purpose and spirit in our lives approaching that full moon. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to click the like button if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you haven't yet gotten your True Sidereal report, there's a link down below for that. It's absolutely free. Type in your birth details and you'll get a printout of your sun, moon, and ascendant in the True Sidereal actual sky placements. So again, have a great one, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.